Don't talk to me, babe. So don't say yes.
How many of, let me see the dreamers in this room. How many of you dream of leading your own company? Right? How many of you dream of leading your own 501c3 social sector ministry, maybe? How many of you in this room don't think you're leaders? Excellent. So we've got a room full of leaders. Now, if you're in this room and you're thinking to yourself, well, I am not sure that leadership relates to me directly, I want to assure you that no matter what you do in life, no matter where your station becomes, whether you're playing baseball at the minor leagues, if you're playing at a CEO level in a C-suite company, leadership is leadership. It's not kinds of leadership. There's one kind of leadership. Tonight, I want to give you whatever I have. I got 10 thoughts that will help you develop into a good leader. John Maxwell, who was on campus a year ago, made the comment that I've kind of come to clone, in that everything rises and falls on leadership. So if we are all going to become leaders in some capacity, whether it's in your home, and I have to say, your first priority is the leadership of your home. You are the president, CEO, COO of your four walls, of your home, of your family, of your children. You are it. Buck stops with you. So no matter where you go, my hope is the next few minutes are going to help you. Leadership is about influencing. A great example is the President of the United States. If you read our Constitution, the way it's constructed, the President really has very limited powers, unless he has influence. Let me say it again. You cannot lead without influence. You have no influence, you can't lead. You look at the history of our presidential landscape, and you look at presidents who were most effective, least effective. The one common bond you'll find among those being effective is that they had great influence. If leadership is great influence, we have to figure out where influence comes from, right? It comes from in us. I want you to take out a sheet of paper or a notepad or your iPad. See if I can get this to work. And we're going to do a little personal inventory. This is where your little comradeship comes in. I'd like you to select 5 words that other people would say about you from this list. 5 words that other people, okay, so not yourself. Now I'm asking you to be honest. You're not going to benefit from this if you cheat yourself. And you say, look, I am cool, I am strong, I am persuasive. If you think that's what really people think about you, then you don't belong in college. You belong someplace else. But here, right now, I want you to pick 5 words. I don't know if you guys can you guys see it okay? All right. Pick 5 words that if you were honest with yourself, other people would say about you. So would they say you're outstanding? Or would they say, well, he's undisciplined? Just be honest with yourself. Now you're going to share this with your partner, your person next to you, someone you know. I know all of you are in here together. So I'm going to give you guys about a minute. So words like surface, undereducated, weak, those are not good words, are they? But if you're never weak, you can't be strong. If you're never undisciplined, how do you be disciplined? If you're never not what you want to be, how do you become what you want to be? So has everyone got 5? Picked 5? All right. I'm going to move through this. I'm sorry? You can't see it. Where? All right. I'm going to give you some of the words. Respectful, warm, thoughtless, learner, persuasive, untrustworthy, loving, undisciplined. High character, leader, forceful, disciplined, weak, disrespectful, formidable, undereducated, thinker, emotional, helpful, incapable, deferential, thoughtful, compassionate, surface, outstanding, distracted, winsome, educated, willed, capable, helpful, candid. So just a few words that someone else would describe you. All right. I'd like you now to select 5 words that you want others to think of you. Now, this is an aspirational thought. You want people to think of you as being persuasive, respectful, thinker, candid. What do you want people to think of you? As you're developing in your career, how do you want people to see you? At the end of this conversation we're going to have, I want you to draw a line between where you are and where you want to be. That's where we're going. And my hope is that these 10 keys that I'm going to give to you will help you get there. Help you walk through your journey. So you got 5 things you're aspirational about? You know, my favorite one is, last time I did this in St. Louis at a leadership conference 2 weeks ago, I asked the guy in the back of the room, I said, what do you want people to think of you as? And he said, surface. I said, surface. He said, yeah, people think of me as this deep guy. I want to be like jovial and surface. Interesting. Not sure I agree with it, but that's okay. All right, we're going to move on. Everybody got this? Because I want to come back to it at the end. Get this clicker working. The first thing, and you hear every leadership person talk about this, is that leadership matters most. No matter where you go in life, you will never go alone. If you run a small enterprise, a large enterprise, you cannot do it by yourself. I was an entrepreneur for a long time. I had a company for 9 years in the entertainment business. We started out with myself and one guy. We ended up with 13 people. We sold the company. But I was never alone. I had CPAs, I had attorneys, I had accountants, because I knew that I didn't know everything. If you look around this room, you need to realize that these are the people that can help you reach your goals. Now, you may not like everyone here, but you never know where people are going to end up. You never know what you're going to become. You are becoming something. You are becoming thoughtful. You are becoming respectful. You're becoming a leader. Build relationships. Relationships matter most. You can do nothing on your own. You will be isolated and in failure. When you're 80 years old, long ways away from all of you, I always talk about this because it hits me in a soft spot. When you're 80 years old, who do you want to be around your birthday party? Who do you want to have with you? Besides your wife and kids, you want to have people you were on the journey with, right? You want to have people you cohorted with, you hung out with, you grew with. You don't want to be at your birthday party by yourself just going, oh, painful. If you do it with others, it'll be way more fun and you'll be far more successful. Relationships matter most. And a lot of those relationships may be in this room. Many of you are going to lead organizations, but you can't lead it by yourself. You're going to need help. So build relationships. Relationships are based on mutual respect. Oftentimes the most difficult conversations breed the most excellent relationships. The key to excellent communication is seeking first to understand. Now, this is a Stephen Covey phrase that I use, but it's very true. When you're in a dialogue, most people want to be heard. Most people do. They want to hear themselves speak. They want to know, you hear what I'm saying? You hear what I'm saying? But if you would take the posture of understanding first before you speak, now we're talking juice. Now you're hearing really what's going on. You cannot hear while you're speaking. You can't do two things at one time. If you're talking and the other person's talking, I was in a meeting here very recently, and I kind of walked into the meeting, and two people were having this dialogue, and they were both talking at the same time. And I said, do you guys even know what you're talking about? And it turns out one was talking about a parking lot, trying to figure out how to fix a parking lot. The other person was trying to figure out how to fix dorm furniture. And they thought they were talking about the same thing. I'm going, how do you guys... You've got to seek first to understand. Understand what's happening around you. Do not overtalk. Listen. There's a little trick, and I'll tell you this, maybe this is something you can take away, that I use in meetings sometimes. When you're in meetings with people who love to talk, not sure you know anybody like that, you give them, I give them a little roll of paper. And you can only talk when you have the roll of paper. So, Simone, when it's your turn to talk, you have the paper, and you speak. I can't speak till you finish speaking, and you hand the paper to someone else. That's very difficult. It's easy to talk about, but it's very difficult to do. Seek first to understand. Does everybody understand that? It sounds so simple, doesn't it? It's like, well, sure. But man, it's difficult. In a business conversation, when your emotions are riled up and you want to get your point across, seek first to understand seems a long ways away. But when you train yourself to do it, get it inside of you that you're a listener first. The Sunday night high. Look, my friends make fun of me because I have a routine that on Sunday nights I spend 30 minutes to 45 minutes planning my week. If you don't plan your week will be chaos. If you don't plan your week will be chaos. Now, as you are in school, you might think, well, my week's pretty planned. I got my classes. But I challenge you, you leave here, you leave school, get out into the real world, and you see that your week goes by so fast. Things are due, things are happening. Your boss is needing you. You got to file reports. You got to file your 990s, your taxes. I mean, all of a sudden, if you don't plan your week will be chaos. A lot of people, though, plan a month out. Personally, I'm a quarterly planner. I plan a quarter in advance so I don't have to worry about it. But I do every Sunday night. I check my schedule. I look at it. I figure out, okay, I have 4 meetings on this Monday. What am I going to talk about? What agenda items do I need? Plan your week, right? So the Sunday night high is really just a way to get you to remember that planning your week on Sunday nights is a lot easier than having chaos all week long. Now, are you all on Outlook, or do you use Outlook and all the accoutrements of Outlook? So you have the calendar and the tasks. You know, you may not realize it, but all of those things talk together. Your task list and your Outlook, your calendars all speak together. So that's one way a lot of people use to plan their week, plan their life. So any questions so far as we're running through this? No. All right. So planning your week is key. Feedbacks. Never have a meeting without sending a feedback. What is a feedback? A feedback is, it could be an email, a text of what you discussed and what you agreed to do. This is a fundamentally good business practice. If you have a meeting with someone, you and I have this meeting. We said, okay, we got Christmas lights. We're going to put them up on the 4th. We're going to do these things. I need to send you a note and say, look, we just met. Here's what we're going to do by this date, right? Good? And as you get more mature in your leadership, you're going to find this becomes a weapon. You'll find out that in court, feedbacks are admissible. You'll find out when you're asked, what did you do with this? You can pull out a feedback, and it's right here. If you make feedbacks part of your repertoire, your routine, your life, it can be a cost saver. I was CBS, a couple of years ago, I did a project for the Grammys. CBS with Naris owns the Grammys. So we used the phrase on BET, the TV network, the pre-Grammy gospel celebration. Now, Naris had given us the rights, but CBS didn't give Naris the right to give us the right. Are you tracking with me so far? So a night before this program airs, I get a call from the president of CBS Entertainment on my cell phone. I don't recognize the number, right? 212, I don't recognize this number. I take the call. Hey, is this Ossie Mills? Yeah, this is Joe Silverman. Oh, Joe Silverman. I'm thinking, who is it? I know the name. You know, it's kind of vague. I know Joe Silverman. All of a sudden it dawns on me. Whew, this is the president of CBS. He goes, look, we have a problem. We're going to file an injunction against you in about 25 minutes. And I got to tell you that I'm sorry to do this to you, but you cannot use pre-Grammy gospel celebration. It's ours. We own it. We're protecting. Our attorneys are drafting paperwork. And he's rattling it off. And he says, and I'm trying to think, wait a minute, this has to be, it can't happen. At this time in our little company's history, this was a big deal. This was like, I mean, this was like Hollywood, big time. And I remember saying to him, I took a deep breath, and he said, unless you can prove to me that you've gotten the rights from Naris and someone from CBS gave you approval. And I said to myself, I said, yeah, I have a feedback of a conference call I had with a Naris executive and a CBS guy, I don't remember his name right now, was listening in. And I sent the feedback to everyone in that room, and the bottom of the feedback I said, if I do not hear from you in 24 hours, this is how we'll proceed. And you know what? That saved my bacon. Now, I can't tell you I have no idea what I would have paid. But I would have forfeited the deal with BET, forfeited the deal with Naris, not to mention all the artists that I had to go get rights from. Oh my Lord, that would have been. Of course, the big artist that night was a guy named MC Hammer, which none of you know, right? That was a whole nother thing. Anyways, MC Hammer, sorry, I'm not going to go down that path. The pants were way too baggy still. I mean, they were just like waving in the wind. Anyways, my point is, feedbacks, right, can be used to protect you, can be used to help keep your staff motivated and help you see where they're going. Without a feedback, people perish. I know that's not scripture, but let's go with me on that. Any questions about that? About feedbacks? All right, moving on. Never walk by a mistake. Now, part of leadership is being critical. Okay, that's part of the deal. I love Steve Green because Steve is not afraid to say that's wrong. And I enjoy that because you know what? Sometimes you have to call it like it is. In leadership, you have no choice. As you rise to your level of leadership, you cannot walk by mistakes. You can't just walk down the road, the pathway, you see something smudged on the floor and just think it's okay. You got to do something about it. If you're going to be the person of authority, get to work. The problem with leadership a lot of times is you think, I've been given this title. I am vice president, or I'm director, or whatever. And somehow, the need to correct people or the need to correct situations goes out the window. Unfortunately, the opposite is true. The more responsibility you get, the stronger you have to become. This takes courage. Stopping by your friends, say, you know what, I need you to fix that. For many years, as I came up through the ranks in television, I managed friends. Very difficult. That is a That was very difficult for me because one afternoon we're playing soccer, next morning we're in a meeting and I'm holding them accountable. Very awkward. But I learned in that instant, in those exercises, that I couldn't walk by it. I couldn't just walk by. And I'm grateful. Dr. Rutland's really good at it. He walks through, he could be in the basketball down at the baby center, and he sees something on the floor, he'll reach down and pick it up. Now, he's not telling someone to do it, he's doing something about it. Now, the guy who should have picked it up sees it. So next time he's thinking, oh, I better pick it up. You don't want the president picking up trash. But you cannot walk by a mistake. Colin Powell is famous for this. He's famous for holding people on the carpet. He has a bit of a gruff disposition. You know, he's like, do it, get it done. You know, he's a military guy. And then you have other people. I've had the opportunity to see Romney in action, watch him navigate with his guys. Very cordial, very kind of, hey, let's get that done. Not a question, but a directive done softly. So this will take courage, and it also, you get better at it over time. It's not something you do well right away, because it creates conflict, right? You're going to have to tell some, hey, look, I got to fix this, get this fixed. So never walk by a mistake. Everybody know what I'm saying with that? Okay, tough one to deal with, but you will have to deal with it as you grow. Leaders always focus on results. Part of the deal. You know, we are thrilled right now to be looking for a replacement. We just had a gentleman retire as president of our television network. We're looking for a replacement. And so we're interviewing candidates. It's amazing to me that people will run television stations and results seem not to matter. I interviewed a sales manager today, right, who wants to be promoted to president. I said, so tell me what your quotas are. He had no idea. Thinking, you're in sales? You don't know what your quotas are? I mean, gee, you're in sales, you ought to know. Results matter, right? You can have all the good intentions, you can have all the relationships, but if you're not results-oriented as a leader, guess what? The ship does not move forward. A good example of this, some people believe in management by objectives, right? That's a common management philosophy. I don't know if we still teach that here, do we? Somewhat? Yeah. Okay, so it is about objectives. Those objectives are results. Things you have to accomplish along the way. If you don't have benchmarks, you don't know if you're winning or losing. Your teams want to know they're winning, but they can't know unless you have results. It's like everything in life. You got to measure it. You got to measure your income. You got to measure your expenses. And if you're in a social sector, a 501c3 ministry, you've got to measure your outcomes. What are you doing? You're raising money for Africa. What are you doing in Africa? How are you impacting lives? What have you done? What did you do with the money? Social sector work is getting very precarious. The government's peeking their head in the door more and more. They want to know what you're doing. So even the government's going to hold us all more accountable for results. So you be on the offensive. Think about how to measure your activity with results. A lot of leaders are social beings. Everyone wants to be liked. Who in here wants to be liked? Right? You want everyone to like you, right? You want to, people go, oh, it's good to see you. Oh, my goodness. Part of that is someone comes up and goes, look, I got this great idea. Your instinct, because you want them to like you, is to say, yeah, oh, that's good. Go do it. Even though you know that it's a bad idea. Even though you know it's a bad idea, you know it's a bad idea. I had one of those today. We had a producer produce a spot, and what can I say? It was just bad. But the guy had done it on his own dime. He did it for free. You know, it's like, how do you say no to this? And they emailed me the spot, and I looked at it and I go, it's just bad. It's just, I cannot. You need to make your yes valuable. I have a friend of mine who's in a little bit of trouble right now. He owns a company in Hollywood with a major motion picture studio. He has made a living creating promotions. You ever go to the theater and hear the voice of God, you know, I mean, that's what he does. That's his company. He's got 12 employees. Well, he is famous for saying yes to things he can't do. Yes on budgets he knows he can't hit. But he just is this sociable guy. He's the guy out there. And so today he calls, he goes, look, I am in a world of hurt. He said, I've got Universal, and I've got, there's a new Hobbit movie coming out, and he's got a bunch of trailers due for Hobbit. And what they do is they re-edit the trailers as you get closer to the release, and new video or new film gets inserted. So as you get closer, you see these different scenes you hadn't seen before. He goes, I owe 22 spots to Universal. He said, and I have no money to do it. So what'd you do? He said, I spent it. I underbid the project. And I said, look, you have one choice. Call Universal and tell them you underbid the project. Say, look, I missed it. He said, I can't do that. I said, what are you going to do? He said, well, I could not deliver. I said, then you'll never work in Hollywood again. Now, this is an ORU grad, by the way. Good guy, loves the Lord, but he just loves saying yes. And I have to tell you, we all need to be very careful of that. And I'm challenging you, watch your yeses. Make your yes, Scripture says, make your yes, yes, and your no, no. Thankfully, I learned this earlier on. I got burnt as we started our company saying yes a lot. And then I realized, you know what, from now on I'm saying no. And then it became, and then people kept calling, saying, you said no? I said, yeah. I said, I can't do it for that. More and more money, bigger and bigger projects, because I was able to say no. Learn to say no. Because when you say yes, people are going to go, oh man, Simone said yes. Oh, great. She didn't just say yes. She said yes, she meant it. So that's an encouragement to you. Helpful? All right. Look, I love failure. I love people who fail. I love business guys who fail. I love it. Because if you fail forward, you're really succeeding. Look, failure is part of life. As you grow, as you go through life, you will fail. I hate to tell you. I hate hiring people who haven't failed professionally. If you ever hire someone in your organization and you see their resume is just clean, you talk to them on the phone, never failed, always hit his quota, always doing well, always you're going, somewhere this guy's going to crash. There's a guy named Derek Summers, a good friend of mine, not an ORU grad, was an ad sales at NBC. Sold actually local ad sales in New York for the local station. Derek had never failed. I mean, he was always on the rise. He came to us at Inspiration in Charlotte for a job. And I'm going, Derek, you're going to fail some point. I don't want you to fail. I want you to fail before you come here. And he hated me because he thought I could have done that job. Finally, after 10 years later, I saw Derek. He said, you were right. He ended up failing a couple of times. Now he's at CBS doing national ad sales. Now, when you fail, it's easy to say, man, that's terrible. And it is. It's painful. Failures, it hurts your pocketbook. It hurts relationships sometimes. But if you fail forward, if you learn from your past, you are failing forward. Don't repeat the mistakes of the past. If you keep making the same mistake, guess what? You got some serious issues. Fail forward. You're going to do it. You might as well learn from it. And when it happens, look, I've failed plenty. When it happens, do something unusual. Embrace it. Good. Embrace the failure. And I'm going to give you a personal story. We bought some equipment. This is when I had my own company. We bought some equipment. Now, and it was a loan. We borrowed $140,000 for this piece of equipment. Of course, now this piece of equipment is antiquated. I mean, this was 10 years ago. This piece of equipment is out of existence. But back then, needed it. Avid. You ever heard the name Avid? Okay. So we were using Avids, and we needed an Avid system, 140. We went into debt for this Avid. Mistake. I didn't see it coming. We had a couple of clients move away from us. All of a sudden, this note was due on this Avid. We weren't funding it. And I said to myself, oh my goodness. I said, you know what? I'm going to learn from this. So I did an investigation. I figured out why I made the mistake, how I made the mistake. One reason is I didn't listen to my mentors. I didn't think about it, didn't pray about it, didn't ask my wife about it. I just made the decision on my own. Isolation. I didn't use the relationships. Now, we got out of it. We returned it to Avid. They gave us some of the money back, and we were fine. But I learned it was very painful. But if you can embrace the failure, you won't make the mistake again. Because I've learned from that. Now, if I'm going to buy a piece of equipment, I'm calling 15 people. I'm asking everybody, what do you think about that? When I bought my laptop, oh my goodness, I wore people out talking about my laptop because I didn't know. I wanted to buy the right gear. So fail forward. Don't be afraid of failure. All right? Okay. This has to do with pride. Oftentimes, a lot of people, no one in this room, of course, feels the need to answer the question. Even when you don't know the answer. Okay, now, Susan Rice, I'm going to use her as an example. I don't know her, never met her. But after Benghazi, she got on television, and in the first news program, she was asked the question, when did you know, how did you know, what's the reason? And she gave the talking point, right? She gave the talking point, which was, it was spontaneous reaction. Now, I read the interview with her today on Politico, and she said, I knew. But I opened my mouth. I needed to, if she had just said, I don't know, but I'll get back to you, different scenario. When you are asked a question, it doesn't mean you have to answer it. It doesn't mean it. It doesn't mean you have to answer it. In public relations, there is this phrase, when you're being hounded by the press and you stand in front of the microphone, do not accept the premise. So someone says to you, Dr. Green, why is it that ORU is on the brink of bankruptcy? You ignore the question and you answer, Oral Roberts University is a world-renowned institution with 160 majors and 3,300 students. Ignore the premise. If you don't know the answer to the question, either ignore the premise or don't answer it. Go ask someone. I cannot tell you how many times I've seen executives sitting in boardrooms, they get asked a question about a number. This often happens around budget season or quarterly reports. So they're asked, why is this number off? And instead of saying, you know what, I really don't know, I'm going to find out, they make up an answer that they think is right. And often that comes all the way back around and just nails them. So if you hear nothing else I say tonight, I want you to remember that you don't have to answer every question. You don't have to talk it all the way out. You don't have to explain it. Just say, you know what, I need to go find out. So as you develop as leaders, there are all these little tools I'm giving you tonight. Hopefully they're making sense. The last, and probably the most important one, is develop yourself. Now, this is not taught a lot in leadership schools, but it is key to your future. And I'm going to give you just 4 things I would work on to develop yourself personally. Never quit learning. Always be a learner. I am constantly reading. I've got books. Steve Green, I know, he's a reader. Dr. Rutland's ferocious. He puts both of us to bed. I mean, this guy's reading every night. He's got all these, like, quantum book. I mean, quantum physics. I'm like, why are you doing that? He goes, oh, I just thought it would be interesting. Interesting. Talk about a snoozer. Develop yourself. Read. You always learn. Conferences, webinars. Learn. Even when you feel like you can't learn anymore, learn. Learn a new language. Learn to talk. Chinese, Japanese, whatever. Learn. Always open your mind to doing something new. The second thing in developing yourself is make sure you are investing in others. Invest your life in other people. Be about giving. Be generous. Time, talent, or treasure. You always hear that, right? Time, talent, treasure. I heard that all the time growing up. Your time is the most valuable thing you can give. The most valuable seed you can plant in anyone's life is your time. Give it away. Invest yourself in somebody else. Mentor people. And I'll go back to this 80th birthday analogy. You want to have people at your 80th birthday that you've mentored, that you've helped along the way, that you gave an opportunity to, that you opened their eyes to a new idea, a new thought. Give yourself away to others. Today I was privileged to sit through the senior class presentations in the media department, the marketing group. Some really powerful presentations about world relief organizations. There's so many people in the world that need you. Not just your money. They need you. They need your time. So give your life away. The third thing is spend time alone. This is hard for me. I have to work on this because I love being with people. I'm a social creature. My wife says I can talk to anybody on the planet in whatever language because I love people. I love to talk to people. I love to hear their stories. But alone time is critical for reflection and development of your inner man. You can't develop yourself without knowing who you are becoming, keeping track, journaling, reading the Word, spending time in worship by yourself. Now, this is a challenge for a lot of us because we like to be with pals, we like to be with friends and co-workers and folks in our groups. And being alone, especially now with social media, right? You could be alone having your worship time and your Twitter feed's buzzing. You're like, oh, what's he saying? Alone time. Develop yourself. Spend some time alone. Very important. And you know what? As you get older, it gets harder to get alone time. Then you have kids in your life, and they're up in soccer and baseball, and all of a sudden, when do you find time alone? Find a rhythm to your time. The fourth and final thing I would do is make sure you have a mentor. Now, this is an easy one for me because I've been very blessed, fortunate. For the last 10 years, I've had 4 codgers in my life from South North Carolina that every month, every quarter, I have lunch with. And these guys, it's always like 3 hours, and they take me to task. I tell them the truth. And I listen. When you find someone you trust with your secrets, with your future, tell them the truth. Don't tell them what you want them to know. See, with mentors, it's really frustrating when you're listening to someone talk to you and you know they're not being honest. Your mentor can speak life. They can breathe excitement and energy and correction into your life, but only if you're honest with your mentor. So I'm going to pause here. These are the top things that I would recommend for your leadership growth. So relationships, seeking first to understand, focus on planning for the week with your Sunday nights, feedbacks, don't walk by mistakes, focus on results, making yes valuable, failing forward, and I don't know is a good answer. And finally, developing yourself. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.